Today I go slightly overboard on making a really simple book press. Stay tuned. So very shortly on this channel, I'm going to be trying my hand at some bookbinding. This of course does necessitate me buying bookbinding things and getting myself a book press. Which, guys, those are expensive. It's like $400 for a fairly small one. It was ridiculous. But upon searching online, I also discovered that they're really easy to make. So we're gonna make one of those really easy ones. Now for this, I'm gonna be using this gorgeous piece of teak that I found at Lowe's. So obviously, it's bigger than this. It looks like this. And it's usually used for like shelving or tabletops or whatever. The reason I went with teak, one, obviously it is gorgeous, but the plywood that I was originally gonna use for this build was the same price. Why wouldn't I go for this? It's dope. Now I learned from the tutorials that in general you want your book press to at least be 2 inches larger on all sides than the thing that you're going to be trying to press. So in my case, I just decided to use a D&D book because this is roughly the tome size I usually work in, and it's gonna give me the measurements that I want. Using this as a rough guide, I decided to go 14 inches long and keep the full 16 inches in width, just in case I decide to make bigger tomes later on. Cool, so with my measurements in place, it was out to the beauty of nature to cut my wood. I say beauty of nature, but it is hot as balls out here in Massachusetts right now. And it's humid. Generally just wasn't a good time to be outside cutting wood, tell you what. Mosquitoes loved it though. They were having a great time. Okay, so with my cuts made, I just busted out my sander to make sure that everything was looking smooth and that my edges were rounded. Now, as you see, the general construction of this bad boy has these bolts that run through the corners. And since it goes through both bores, I obviously want to make sure those holes line up as exact as possible. So for starters, I just measured in 1 inch from either side of that corner to give me my placement for my holes. Now I do that for all the corners on only one board. This is because I then take that one board and position it exactly on top of the other and clamp it into place. Then I just used a 3/8 drill bit to make my holes all the way through both pieces. This is gonna make sure they line up as exact as possible. Now I'm using a drill press to get this done, but you can 100% do it with a regular old hand drill. Just try to get it as straight as possible. I mean, if you're a little crooked, it's not gonna be the end of the world. The bolts might just fight you a little bit. Now, as you can see, the bolts that I'm using have this kind of square section towards the head of them. In order for my holes to accommodate that, I decided to use this Forstner bit and just widen up the top of those holes a little bit. And that is the prep for the wood. From here, we could technically just assemble this whole thing. But as I've said before, anything worth doing is worth overdoing. So I decided to get a little bit fancier with this. First, I busted out this screen print I had made of my logo. Using the same ink that I use for t-shirts, I put it onto the wood and then hardened that ink with my heat gun. Then I just decided to add a layer of shellac to protect and make the grain pop. And it did make the grain pop. Look at how sexy this wood is. The grain is so beautiful and I love it, and I'm so glad the teak was the same price as the plywood because it's so pretty. I am strongly of the belief that if you can get away with it, all of your tools should also be showpieces. Look at how nice that is. Okay, no more wood porn, time for the assembly. Now for the assembly, all we're gonna need are 4 6-inch long carriage bolts, 4 wing nuts, 4 1/2-inch washers, 4 3/8 inch washers, and 1 drawer pull. Okay, so the first side we're gonna use with our boards here is this one that we've made the countersunk holes into. So I add the 1/2-inch washer to the bolt and then send that through those holes on every corner. Next, I flip that over and guide the bolts through the holes on the top board. This is then followed by the 3/8 inch washers and then finally the wing nuts. To wrap this up, I center that pole right in the middle of the top boards and then lock it into place with the screws it came with. This is going to allow me to control that top plate easier and gives me a handle with which to carry it around when I need to. So to use it, you just slide the paper to be pressed into the space between the two boards and then evenly tighten down your wing nuts until everything is locked into place. And there you have it! Function meets beauty in this badass little book press here. And do watch out for the episode where I use it. I'm really excited to try this skill out. Now, if you like what you saw here today, why don't you consider giving me some of that thumbs up love, and do not forget to subscribe so you know when I release new content. Also consider checking out this video of mine here that the algorithm seems to think you'd enjoy. In the meantime though, keep leveling up, you.